Hello, my name is Matt Duesterhaus, agronomist here at Crop Tech Consulting. Today we're out in the field and we're going to be looking at a few different nitrogen programs here late in the season. One thing to keep in mind late season is when we're evaluating our nitrogen programs, we're just getting a snapshot in time of what this looks like. So we're out here the end of August and this corn is green from top to bottom. We've got no deficiencies showing up, no fading of color. We're green all the way to the base of that plant, and if we were to split these stalks, we've got solid, clean internodes at the bottom of that plant. So what that tells us is at this point in time, this corn plant does not need nitrogen, but that doesn't tell us the whole story. This is our 100% side dress block, so early in the season, this was actually one of our worst looking treatments because it didn't have any nitrogen out there early. So remember, when we're looking at nitrogen and evaluating our programs, it's more like a report card approach. We want to look at the first, second, third, fourth quarters all the way through that season to see how we're doing. Here in the third quarter, we're looking pretty good at this 100% side dress block, but we know that this suffered early in the season. In this block, we're starting to see some nitrogen deficiencies. As we travel across the state, we're starting to see more and more of this just from the road. But what we're looking at here is kind of two different things. First, just from the overall appearance, we can see a little bit lighter color in those greens. So the top of the plant's starting to fade a little bit. That initially tells us that nitrogen rate is getting pretty tight. If we go down to the bottom of the plant, we'll see some of the nitrogen deficiencies are pretty stark. So again, we're going to lose that nitrogen at the bottom of the plant first. That's going to be that first indicator because nitrogen is a mobile nutrient. And then the top of the plant comes later. A lot of times guys don't see this or notice it until it's at the top of the plant because they're not out in the field scouting. But when you're driving by, or if you get those drones up in the air and you see some of those fields turning blonde on top, that's a good indicator that you could be running out of nitrogen. So we want to evaluate that and try to figure out why we're running short on nitrogen in that field or in those areas of the field. Another thing we'll notice in this particular plot, we're looking at a population of 36,000 versus a population of 22,000. So in our low population, we actually got a little bit greener plant. Those plants are hanging on longer because of that lower population. There's not as many plants to feed out there. So when we get tight on nitrogen, we can see some of those lower populations hold on a little bit better. So this block is a treatment that got 60 pounds of broadcast nitrogen in the spring and 60 pounds of nitrogen 2x2 on the planter. So here there's only 120 pounds total. And remember, we talked about that report card. This crop, this treatment looked green, one of the best treatments in the field all the way through pollination. So we took care of those early season needs, but now on the back end of the season, if we were to walk away from this crop and weren't going to come back and do any late season scouting, we might be surprised at harvest because we're giving up some grain fill here where we're running out of nitrogen late. So as we're looking at splitting the stalks and looking at that cotton pith to see how that cannibalization occurs, one thing to keep in mind is that as we're comparing different fields and different hybrids, not all hybrids are going to react the same at the same end rate or the same end program. So a more defensive hybrid will hold on to the stalk, hold on to those leaves longer and better than a more offensive hybrid that may sacrifice everything to put starch into that ear to produce the most amount of bushels. So keep that in mind. It's not always apples to apples when you're looking at different hybrids in terms of nitrogen management.